About metaphysics, the science of being as being. And in this image, we see Raphael's School of Athens. The central figures are Plato and Aristotle. Plato is pointing up to the sky, the world of forms, and Aristotle is pointing down to earth, the world of the senses, things that we can perceive. They had radically different points of departure and foundations for their philosophies. But what we are going to do is we're going to learn about Aristotelian metaphysics, which seems to be the best, and it's also the metaphysics that St. Thomas Aquinas used in the Summa Theologiae. So we could say that it's the official metaphysics of the Church, even though in areas of philosophy the Church, is going to give some latitude. It's not going to solemnly define certain philosophies, but Aristotelianism is the best. So we're going to talk about it. I love this painting. It's really cool because the two central figures, it kind of summarizes their views, pointing up, pointing down. We also have some other interesting guys here. We have in the lower left here that I'm circling with the mouse arrow. That's Pythagoras. And then on the other side we have Euclid, although some say he's Archimedes. We've got Ptolemy over here. Raphael actually put himself in the painting. So right now you can see the mouse arrow right over Raphael's face. And over here we have Socrates, right? So Socrates is having a Socratic discussion here, dressed plainly because he was a very simple guy. But really, Socrates laid the groundwork for Plato, who laid the groundwork for Aristotle. Now, let's talk about metaphysics in general. So in science, especially physics, the language employed is math, and you can't do physics properly without math. Likewise, in theology, especially apologetics, many of the concepts and terms come from philosophy. Bad theology is often rooted in erroneous philosophy, whereas a good theology builds upon the foundation of a sound philosophy. And the most fundamental branch of philosophy is metaphysics. All right, you can't teach a fourth grader. Well, let's go earlier than that. You can't teach a first grader about F equals ma in physics, right? Force equals mass times acceleration, if they don't even know what multiplication is. You need to teach F equals ma to someone who already speaks the language of math. Well, the same is true in apologetics. We speak the language of philosophy. Now, metaphysics is the study of being as being. That sounds kind of funny when you hear it the first time. So other sciences, their studies of being regarding a certain aspect. So, for example, math is the study of being as quantifiable, or the study of being insofar as it's quantifiable. Physics is the study of being as measurable. So every science is the study of being in one aspect or another, but the only study of being as being itself is metaphysics, specifically Aristotelian metaphysics that we're going to learn today. The term metaphysics was not coined by Aristotle, but it does have much to do with his philosophy. So Aristotle wrote about the study of being as being in volumes that came right after his books on metaphysics. I'm sorry, his books on physics. And don't think that Aristotle named his study metaphysics. He didn't. But because the volumes he wrote about this subject came right after his books on physics, it was later named metaphysics because meta, that prefix, one of its meanings is after. So probably Andronicus of Rhodes gave it that title, right? And then that was translated into Latin as ta meta ta physica, right? Ta meta ta physica literally means the books that are after physics, and that became Metaphysica in medieval Latin, which is now called metaphysics. Interesting thing though, meta can also mean beyond, which makes sense because metaphysics transcends and underlies physics. Indeed, metaphysics uses the physical world as its point of departure. and then applies human reason to arrive at the ultimate unseen causes of the visible world. Metaphysics transcends and underlies not only physics, but all of reality. Therefore, metaphysics is the most fundamental science of all, and that's why it's worth studying. So the first thing we have to talk about is act and potency, because act and potency was Aristotle's revolutionary idea. He's the one who came up with it, and he came up with it to settle a dispute. All right, so we're going to see what that dispute was. We could say that act refers to what something actually is or does, or what characteristics it currently has, whereas potency refers to what something can become or do, or how its characteristics can change. For example, if I'm currently sitting, I might get up and stand. I'm sitting in act, but I have the potency to stand. Another example is an acorn, like we see here. In act, it's a seed, but in potency, it's a large tree. Now, Aristotle developed the concepts of act and potency as a way to resolve the ancient philosophical controversy regarding permanence and change. So this was the controversy of the pre-Socratic philosophers, those who came before Socrates. Some of them, specifically Parmenides, denied all change as an illusion, while others, like Heraclitus, denied all permanence. So people couldn't come to an agreement. They were like, it's either all change or it's all permanence. And that's why Aristotle came along, because with act and potency, he said change is explained as the actualization of a potency, and permanence is explained as what remains unchanged in a thing, despite changes in its characteristics. Metaphysics consists of the following essential principles. All right, so we're going to look at some pairs of concepts that have to do with act and potency. So the first pair is esse and essence, and I leave esse in the Latin because I think it just captures more meaning than an active being or actus essendi, which is another Latin term. But esse is short and sweet, so we're gonna keep it. Esse refers to all the characteristics that make a thing what it is. For example, the essence of a typical chair is inanimate, solid, 4 legs, has a seat, has a backrest. We call these essential characteristics. Esse is the Latin word meaning to be. It refers to the act of being, or the actus essendi of a thing. Actus essendi is just Latin for act of being. In essence, without esse is just an idea or a possibility. An essence with esse is an existing thing. Thus we say that essence is in potency relative to esse, while esse is in act relative to essence. And essence is nothing but potency unless it is actualized by esse. Okay, so to repeat, what Aristotle said is that change is explained as the actualization of a potency. Right? So the radical change of an essence becoming an existent thing is because it receives or is actualized by esse. And permanence is explained as what remains unchanged in the thing despite changes in its characteristics. We'll see that more in the next couple of pairs. Matter and form. Matter is what something is made of. Form is what makes that matter a specific thing. For example, wood can be made into many different things, but only wood that has the form of a chair is actually a chair. Wood can also be without any particular form, and that formless wood would just be like raw lumber or a felled tree. We'd say it doesn't have a particular form in that case. Thus we say that matter is in potency relative to form, while form is in act relative to matter. In other words, the matter is actualized by the form. Okay, now let's talk about substance and accidents. All right, so with substance and accidents, we get into the 10 categories of Aristotle. That's what they're called. The first category being the substance itself. And then the next 9 categories are the 9 accidents: quantity, quality, relation, location, time, position, possession, action, and passion. We're going to talk about these. So first, back to substance. Substance is the thing in itself, whereas accidents are the changeable characteristics of the thing. For example, the chair is a substance whose accidents include size, shape, color, and location. The concepts of substance and accidents enable us to reconcile change and permanence, as mentioned earlier. A substance remains a substance even though its accidents may change. For example, a person can grow, get older, relocate, get a tan, but he or she is still the same person. Substance is in potency relative to act, whereas accidents are in act relative to substance. So this may sound counterintuitive because accidents can't exist without a substance to underlie them, and accidents have the act of being only because they inhere in the substance that has the act of being. Right? That my sitting, I can talk about my sitting only because I exist in the first place. However, substance can be thought of as being subject to an infinite number of possible accidents. My substance underlies these accidents. And in other words, substance is in potency to receive any number of accidents. There are multiple, infinite changes that can happen to the 9 categories. But when those change, the 9 categories, or the accidents, the first category, the substance, stays the same. Furthermore, it is impossible for a substance to exist without accidents. Try to imagine a colorless, sizeless, locationless chair, for example. You may be able to conjure up a vague idea of that, but it can't exist in reality. It's just going to be in your mind. Thus, we can say that the accidents are what actualize a substance. A substance has the act of being only if it has accidents. This doesn't imply that the accidents cause the substance. Rather, it means that a substance can't exist without accidents. So Aristotle's 10 categories of being are the substance and 9 accidents. So let's go through each one of the accidents. The quantity is how much of something there is, like how much mass it has. The quality, what color, shape, texture it has. There are many different qualities. Relation, what something is in relation to others. So for example, son or daughter or sister, brother. Location is where something is. Time is when something is. Position is its orientation or posture. The possession is what it has or wears. Action is what it does. And passion is what is done to it. All right? Not the way we usually think of passion. Here, passion just means what's done to you. What's done to you, right? Whereas action is what you do. So, for example, let's say there's a guy named Bobby. Bobby is a substance. And his mass is 85 kilograms. That's his quantity. His eye color is brown. That's a quality. His relations are son and brother. It's a relation. His location is at home in Texas. That's his location. His time is 3 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. His position is sitting. His possessions are shirt, shorts, and shoes. His action is reading. His passion is being cooled by an air conditioner. So Bobby remains Bobby even though his accidents may change. That's the main point here. All right, Aristotle's next principles in metaphysics were the 4 causes. So we're going to talk about the 4 causes now. First is the material cause. The material cause is identical to matter, but it's classified as a cause because without it, the material thing wouldn't exist at all. So material cause is just stuff. For example, a wooden chair can't exist if there's no wood to begin with. So that's why we call that wood that makes up the chair the material cause of the chair. The formal cause. The formal cause is identical to form. but it's classified as a cause because it gives specificity to the matter that it informs. Informs not in the sense of information where you learn stuff. Informs literally here means giving form to. So the form gives form to matter. The form is what causes a certain quantity of matter to be what it is. So the form of a wooden chair is what causes that particular bunch of wood to be a chair. Without the form, it'd just be a bunch of wood. All right, now the efficient cause. So the efficient cause is what makes change happen. And there are different kinds of change. In order to explain the efficient cause, we must show what it has to do with each of the four kinds of change, which, by the way, Aristotle called motion. Aristotle called change motion. So for Aristotle, motion or change was just the actualization of a potential. That's all it was. The first change or motion is generation corruption. This is the most radical. This affects category 1. It affects the substance. See, the other three causes affect the accidents, but the first of the four causes, within efficient causes, of course, is what I mean. The first of the four efficient causes is substantial, whereas the next three are accidental. For a human person, conception is the moment of generation, and death is the moment of corruption. The corpse continues to exist, but no longer as a person. It's just a heap of flesh, right, without the form. The efficient cause of generation or corruption is the agent that gives form to matter or destroys it. It confers the formal cause upon the material cause. So in the case of a wooden chair, the efficient cause is a carpenter. In the case of a baby, the efficient cause is our parents. So the efficient cause, then, of the first kind of efficient causality generates or corrupts, right? Initiates or destroys, gives form to or takes form away. All right, next kind of change. So this is an accidental change, not substantial. And this has to do with the second category, with quantity. So increase-decrease is a change in the accident of quantity. For example, animals can grow or shrink, gain weight or lose weight. The efficient cause of increase or decrease can be food, photosynthesis, hunger, age, injury. There are a lot of different things that can cause an increase or decrease of quantity. Third kind of efficient cause, which is also an accidental change, in the third category. So alteration is a change in the accident of quality. For example, leaves turn from green to red. Human skin can become rough with age or hard work. There can be many different efficient causes of alteration. Changes in other accidents such as location, time, and position, while not strictly included under the type of motion called alteration, also have efficient causes, right? So any kind of change in the 9 categories is caused by an efficient cause. An efficient cause is the agent of change. All right, number 4, local motion. This is an accidental change in the 5th category, right? The accident of location. A change to the accident of location is local motion. Perhaps this is the easiest to visualize because it is our daily experience to change our own location or to pick things up in one place and put them down elsewhere. So it's kind of easy to understand locomotion, I think. But locomotion has to be caused by an efficient cause. All right, and finally, last but not least, is the final cause. Mentioned last, but actually the most important of them all. The final cause is what something exists for, or the purpose for which it was made. For example, the final cause of a chair is so that a person can sit in it. The final cause of a knife is to cut things. The final cause of a human person is the meaning of life, which philosophers have debated for millennia. And we'll talk about the meaning of life later in this course. Although the final cause is mentioned last, it's actually the most fundamental of all causes. For example, the need for something to sit on, which is the final cause, is what moves the carpenter, who is an efficient cause, to get some wood which is a material cause, and give it the form of a chair, which is a formal cause. So what precedes the other three causes is the final cause. It drives them all. Now, we're going to talk about the concept of substantial forms and accidental forms. So this concept combines the act-potency pair of matter and form with the act-potency pair of substance and accidents. So suppose a carpenter builds a chair. This means that he, as an efficient cause, has given the form of chair to some wood. This is called a substantial form because it causes the wood to be a substance, specifically a chair substance. However, there are many other forms present in the substance. For example, the carpenter might give an 89-degree angle to the backrest. That's an accidental form. Or he may paint the chair blue, another accidental form. Or he may carve a design into the feet. These are all accidental forms, but they inhere in the overall substantial form. See, they coexist. The substantial form of the chair is there, but also the accidental forms are there. However, the accidental forms inhere in the substance, which is a substance because of the substantial form. All right, so now at this point, you should read the article. This article has to do with causes, specifically how far we could backtrack with causes. And so you should read the article. It's linked here in the YouTube video. You'll see 3 links underneath the viewing window. If you click on the YouTube link, click on the YouTube link, and actually go to this video in YouTube, you'll see the file links under it, and one of them is this one. So pause the video, take the time to simply read that short article, and then resume when you're finished. The article is also in the appendix of the textbook, Summa Apologetica. All right, now let's talk about nature, person, and soul. So nature is how something acts or tends, which is, of course, rooted in what it is, which is its essence. So something is a certain way, it's going to do things a certain way. That's what nature refers to. A person is an individual substance of rational nature. That was the definition of Boethius. All right. Now we're going to talk about about this in a bit, so don't pause the video yet. Let's say that, so I'm kind of skipping down a bit. A person is an individual substance of rational nature. This was Boethius's definition that Aquinas adopted, right? But we would also say that the soul is a substantial form of a human being. We talked about, a chair having a substantial form. That's what makes it a chair instead of a bunch of wood. Well, in the case of a human being, the substantial form is the soul. And actually, this is true of animals and plants as well. They have souls, just a different kind. All right, so let's understand these things a little bit better, right? A person then is unique, unrepeatable, capable of rational thought. Only persons can act freely. And although persons can be angelic, having no bodies, human persons are unities of body and soul. So the substantial form of the human person is the soul, which permeates every living cell. It's the life principle of a living thing. See, the substantial form isn't your shape. Your shape has to do with quality and quantity, right? The substantial form of you, what makes you you, is your soul. And you can't imagine your soul like it's some kind of, white round thing in your belly area or your heart area. It's not a soul. A soul permeates every cell of your body. It's always active. Plants and animals have souls too, right? Because plants and animals have substantial forms, but their souls are not rational. Their souls, the plant soul is vegetative, the animal soul is animal. And animal has sensitive life, a plant doesn't. But neither plants nor animals have rational life. Only human souls, like angelic souls, are rational and free. Death is the separation of soul and body. So when a human being or an animal or a plant dies, the substantial form of its corpse is no longer a soul, right? The corpse is just formless. It may look like a human body or a plant or an animal, but it's dead. It's just a heap of decomposing matter. So an easy way to remember the concepts of nature and person is this. All right. So we're going to, well, actually, no. You know what? Before I explain that, I would like you to pause the video, then go to the link under the video, also in the appendix of the textbook, and read the article about the natural immortality of the soul by Tim Staples. It's a really good article. Pause the video, read that well, and then resume. All right, so here is an easy way to remember the concepts of nature and person. Nature is about what someone is, while person concerns who someone is. So my essence, right? What I am is human, right? Whereas if I have the act of being, if I have SA, then I'm going to exist. But I, as a human person, right, have an identity, or I have a name, a personality. That's who I am. But driving all this, of course, is the final cause, which is why I exist. And again, people have been debating this for a long time. Why anything exists, really. But we'll talk about this throughout the year. What is the meaning of human life? We won't do it yet because we're still in natural apologetics, which is philosophy. But we'll do it later. All right, so the next concept is the transcendentals. The transcendentals. So the transcendentals are properties of being, principally unity, truth, goodness, and beauty. Right? These are the transcendentals, in Latin, unum verum bonum pulchrum. Our minds apprehend truth. Our wills apprehend goodness and choose goodness. Our senses apprehend beauty. So what you should do at this point, and I know that there are 3 articles in one video. That's not common, actually. It's very uncommon. But these 3 articles are all extremely important. That's why I'm integrating them into the lesson. So now it's time to pause the video one last time. Read the 3rd of the linked articles, also in the textbook, and it's on the transcendentals. Make sure you read this article and read it well, because it's very good at explaining the nature of the transcendentals. So pause and then resume after reading. So hopefully you've read the article, and the concepts of completeness, proportion, and clarity are clear. I think those are very good for giving us objective criteria for beauty. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which is true partly, but a best way, I think the real best way to understand this is that beauty is determined by the object and judged by the subject. In other words, beauty is in the object as a transcendental, even though subjective preferences may vary. So when we say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, really what we mean is that preference is in the eye of the beholder, right? Beauty is objective. Preference is subjective. And the last thing, just to finish, this is kind of a fun thing, and you don't have to memorize it or anything. But this is just a fun way to visualize metaphysics, because it puts a bunch of the concepts we've learned together. I call it the metaphysics blob. So the main oval there, the outer oval, is the substance, right? And the substance is what we see. The substance is what something is. But how do we see the substance? We see the substance because its perceptible qualities are the accidents, the things we see, the changeable secondary characteristics. And there are 9 of them, which is convenient in English because accidents is a 9-letter word. And you'll notice a little A in each accident circle? Well, that means that it's in act with respect to the substance, which has a P, because the substance is in potency. Now, you could probably think of it as even that substance thing without a little tidal circle around it, right? It's not that we have a little circle substance in the oval. No, the oval is the substance, right? That little circle that has substance written on it is just, think of it as just a sticker label on what is the substance here, which is that outer oval. Okay, then we have the inner oval, which is the combination of essence and essay. Notice there's a dotted line between essence and essay. And the reason for that dotted line is because even though essence and essay are distinct, right, they're not separate, because in an existing thing, essence and essay go together. Otherwise, the essence wouldn't exist. But because the essence has essay, participates in the act of being, it does exist. All right, so essence then labels the left-hand circle, which consists of matter and form together. Essay is its own thing, right? It's just the act of being. Essay is has an A next to it because it's in act with respect to the essence, which is in potency. And finally, matter is in potency with respect to form, which is an act. So this may or may not help. It doesn't have to help, but if it does, then hopefully that clarifies some concepts. And that's the end of this lesson on metaphysics.